Are you ready? Stand by. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gerard and today we're going to discuss 3 different gun setups for rimfires for 3 different competitions. I've got Barend here joining me today. We've got a hunting / PRS setup, we've got a extreme long range setup, and then back here at the bench I've got a bench setup to shoot some target competitions. That's what we're going to discuss today, so let's get started. So we're going to start this video off with this setup here. And this is Barend's gun, and I'm going to let Barend explain to you guys how he has set this gun up and what he is using it for. So the floor is yours, Barend.
Okay, right, this is my CZ455. I mainly use it for PRS NRL 22 matches with the occasional hunting in between.
It is a very nice looking gun. I love this RX chassis. What benefits does the chassis give you when you go out and shoot with it in PRS matches and NRL matches?
Firstly, it's a much more balanced, a little bit more adjustable with your length of pull in your cheek riser. One of the biggest thing is the mag stop, that it don't hit your mag and you get smooth feeding every time. And then of course running the bipod at the front. Yes, and you can balance it also. You can add some weights in the front here. You don't get factory made, but you can make your own weights and add it in the front and the back to get it a bit more balanced.
What is the idea behind the scope and why did you fit this certain scope on this gun?
The biggest reason is elevation. I've got 31 mils of elevation. I mounted it on top of a 50 MOA pick rail to get as much as I can out of this.
For longer range shooting? For
longer range shooting. And at the moment, I think I've got around about 25 mils worth of dialing.
That's a lot.
On the 50 MOA rail.
That is a lot.
Which can give me the ability to dial out to near enough 400.
I take it is a dirty reticle?
Yes, it's the EBR 7C from Vortex. Got the Christmas tree look.
And the Christmas tree is for windage, and it's important when you shoot PRS and NRL.
Especially important for that. I like to, a lot of the times when you're shooting out above or further than 100 meters, you can't always dial for the windage. You gotta spot your misses and correct for it on the fly. So that's where the Christmas tree comes in.
And it's nice because you see exactly where you missed or where you hit and what the hold was.
You can hold over for the next one.
That's quite awesome. So I think underneath the scope here, let's speak about the pick rail that you've got here. This pick rail was a aftermarket fit to this gun.
Yes, the pick rail was made by a gunsmith. I asked him for 50 MOA specifically to get as much as I can out of it.
To get more for elevation. Yeah. How does a pick rail like this benefit the shooting disciplines that you do with this gun for the PRS and the NRL?
It gives you the option to dial for your distances.
Yeah.
If you don't have the pick rail and you don't have enough elevation, you're going to start having to hold over more. Not that hold over is a problem, but it just makes it a bit easier if you put the cross on it. It's just one thing less to think of when you got to build positions, move and get on target quicker.
Much quicker.
Once you've dialed for it, it's just easier to get on target if you don't have to hold over.
And just the thing here is Barend shoots with me in the NRL and PRS. The only difference is he's using a rimfire to shoot the competitions with, and I'm using an air gun, but we are shooting the same matches at the same time, just with different guns. He's got
both
a rimfire.
22 caliber.
Yeah, both 22 caliber. That's pretty much where we are on par with each other. But I shoot mostly the impact, and he shoots a rimfire, the CZ that you see over here. Because I think the next thing is to speak about the ammo. Obviously ammo is picky with every single gun out there with a rimfire range. You have to test batches of ammo. You can't just stick to one batch and think it's going to work with a gun. Every single barrel, in my opinion, works differently, so it's best to choose a batch that works well with a certain barrel. So I see you are shooting SK match.
I've tried the rifle match. The rifle doesn't like them too much, but the SK Plus, the yellow box, is spot on. It just runs smoothly. I get a good steady velocities, and I could get very good groupings.
You have to, unfortunately, with a Rimfire, buy ammo that fits the barrel, and you're pretty much stuck with that. You can't change that. So you have to go through certain batches, you have to try certain speeds and see what works well with that barrel that you've got. And you know, that's the unfortunate downside of a Rimfire and ammo. It's not like an air gun. What you buy is what you get, pretty much in the end of the day. One of the biggest tips for guys coming into the sport and you want to, you know, start looking at accuracy and precision, then I will definitely say to the guys, you know, don't waste your time with faster velocity Rimfire ammo. Go for those subsonics and just work with them and see which one fits the best with your barrel. I mean, that's one of the biggest tips that I can give you guys, especially for the guys who wants to get into this kind of sport. Tell us a little bit more about the Skypod and why.
Mainly the Skypod, the versatility. It's got good cant, you got the pan, and you got so much.
Yeah, you can click it down, up and down very quickly as well.
Yeah, it's very handy. I love it.
It's actually awesome for using a bipod like this with PRS and NRL, especially where we have to change positions the whole time. I think
sometimes you got awkward positions to use,
and you can actually so quickly adjust this bipod to get that certain position to get steady on target. For silencer, what are we using in the front here?
I run the ATEC Wave, and as you've heard in the videos previously, it just works a treat.
I've put the best silencers that I can get onto my air rifles and my own Rimfires, and it doesn't come close to this setup. This thing is ridiculous quiet. If this gun could be a sniper gun, I tell you this, it will be the best option, because no one will know where you are, where you're shooting from. It's very, very quiet. Okay, let's speak about the trigger quickly here. How did you set your trigger up?
It's the stock standard trigger that came with the rifle. Just took it to a gunsmith and he did a little trigger job on it just to get it down to about 2 ounces.
The trigger brake on a Rimfire, especially for match shooting, is crucial. You want to have your trigger as light as possible, especially when you're doing PRS and NRL. The last thing that you want to think about is breaking that trigger off. Once you're on target and you push that bolt close, you want to literally put your finger to the trigger and you want to just lightly squeeze it off. You know, the NRL matches that we shoot in the PRS, some of those steel targets is very, very tiny. Okay, so the next gun setup that we've got here is a Anschutz Match 54. It's a classic. This gun setup that you're looking here at is set up for ELR, and that's extreme long range shooting. The Anschutz has just been proving themselves over all the years. It's one of the best Rimfires out there that you can buy standard from, you know, from the factory. In my opinion, obviously I'm an Anschutz lover. Nothing against the CZs, but I just love my Anschutz guns. And you know, this gun is pretty much a versatile gun that you can do quite a lot with. Starting with the stock here, obviously the stock is so versatile, you can do a lot of things with it. It's got adjustable cheek riser here, adjustable buttstock. It's got a palm rest over here, and then one of the things that I love the most about the stock is this grip. It is just so good, so comfortable, very nice when you sit down and you shoot target with it, and you can keep this gun very steady. The gun itself is very heavy as it sits here. Obviously it's not one of the guns you want to throw over your shoulder and walk around with in the field. You will pretty much die the first hour carrying around this gun. So I won't advise the guys to use this kind of setup for that. The weight is always a big factor when you want to have your gun steady. The more weight that you can pack onto your gun, the steadier the gun will sit basically from the position you're shooting from, and obviously that will give us more stability, and more stability will give us more accuracy. It's just the way it is. So you know, the weight do play a big favor on this current gun setup as it sits here. The scope on top is a Nightforce NX5. It's a 3.5 to 15 by 50. It's got a very good glass. This is a clean reticle, and you need a scope basically to give you, you know, good clarity, especially when you do long range shooting. If I would have changed something about this gun, I would have actually put a scope on here which gives me a 50x, but I mean, if you have good glass, you don't need all the magnification. You can still see where you're shooting pretty much. In the front, it has a Picatinny rail fitted to the gun. The bipod that you see on here is an Accutech bipod. It's a very stable bipod, but the physical bipod structure that's been used on this gun is a A-frame motorized bipod. I will see if I can get a shot for you of that. That's been used for extreme long range shooting. The wider your footprint is, obviously the more stable the gun will be as well. And you know, the big Sastec bipods that you get, and your joy pods from, you know, from Seb, those kind of bipod rigs is pretty much awesome for F-class shooting or for extreme long range shooting for this kind of gun setups. I didn't bring mine along. I've just brought this Accutech just to keep the gun up to show you guys, but that's pretty much what you're going to run with a setup like this for extreme long range shooting. In the front, as you can see, there's no silencer, there's no hunting involved with this gun. This gun is plainly built for target shooting, so it can make a noise. You don't care. All that you're going to care about is to hit your target out there.
Accuracy.
Yeah, accuracy, and make sure you're on point. So obviously no silencer in the front. So if you guys have a look at the rail that's been fitted here, it's an aftermarket rail, and this rail functions with two purposes. Number one, it gives a little bit of extra height so you can get better in behind the scope, and it has a built-in cant in it to give you that ability to dial out at longer ranges. But another function that this rail gives this gun is that you can now offset your scope rings further apart. What is crucial here is you want to have your cheek in the perfect place behind the scope. When you open up your eye, you want to have clear, crisp view. If there's any indication of, you know, eye relief that is wrong, then you're pretty much going to struggle. And you don't want to sit awkwardly behind the gun. The more awkward you sit behind the gun, the more chance you will have of missing your shot. So that is very important. So talking about the ammo for the gun, it is Ely 10X. This is the preferred choice for this current gun with this barrel. This ammo with this gun, it shoots lights out, but there's also another skill involved of doing long range shooting, and that comes to knowing ballistics and knowing your environment and the skill to shoot out at those long distances. The more practice that you get behind that gun, the more that you are shooting in those, you know, in those environments and in those, you know, conditions, the more, you know, data you will collect, and the more, you know, knowledgeable you will be when you get into those competitions. So the trigger on this gun is super light, and it is very crisp. That's exactly what you want, because the smallest thing that you do behind this gun will have a big impact downrange as well.
Yeah, slight movement of a couple of mil could translate to a meter off target at 500 yards.
So finally, this is my Benchrest setup, which I use to shoot my competitions with. It is a Anschutz Match 54, exactly the same as what you guys saw previously on the long range setup. The only difference is this gun has been customized to shoot from the bench. The very first thing that I want to discuss is the stock for this gun. The stock is completely different, you know, to what you guys have seen on the ELR setup. The whole design of this stock is basically to advance the movement of this gun when you pull the trigger off. So when you pull that trigger, you want the whole gun to freely move backwards like that. Now if I take the gun by the back, you can see that it is perfectly sliding in the setup as it is here. Now if you look at the front of the stock here, you will see that the front part of the stock is wider than the rest of the stock here at the back. It's also very square and flat at the bottom. The reason for that is so that the stock can perfectly fit into my front rest like you see here. Now when it's flat like that and it's squared up like that with the front rest, the gun will always sit upright by itself. You don't have to fight with it to keep it upright. And that is very important when you're doing Benchrest shooting. For a scope, I'm running a fixed magnification Weaver target scope. Now this scope is not big, it doesn't have the most magnification on it, but here I'm looking for glass quality and that crisp, fine reticle. Now if I can give you good advice here, if you select your scope, make sure that you get a scope with a very small click value to it, because it's going to benefit you when you do your adjustments downrange on target. If the value is too big, you're going to either go way off the mark or you won't be able to hit your mark. That's very important. Now the trigger on this gun is next level, I must admit, because the trigger has been worked on by a certain person, and I can tell you this, he has done a really good job. And that is saying something, because the standard Anschutz trigger that you get with the gun from the factory is already super good, and this trigger is even better than that. So just to put that in perspective, if you look at this trigger long enough, it will go off. Now the barrel on this gun is not an Anschutz barrel, it is a aftermarket barrel which is fitted. It's 26 inches in length and it's 1 inch in thickness, and I think Barend can confess that this barrel is very accurate.
No, definitely. Threading a needle at 50 meters.
I will not tell you what barrel it is. That's something that I'm going to keep for myself, but maybe in some future upcoming videos I will tell you what barrel I am shooting on this gun. In the front I've got a Ezel PDT tuner. The nice benefit about tuners is that it gives you the ability to play around with a wider range of ammo.
Especially with us not always having your first choice of ammo available.
Yeah, in South Africa we currently have a problem with getting 22 LR ammo, but then again I've spoken to some people in the States as well that tell me they have the same problem. You know, looks like everywhere there's a problem to get, you know, ammo these days for 22 rimfires.
Yes.
Which is crazy if you think about it. Now something to add here with a gun setup like this is obviously the accessories that you need to complete this gun setup, and that's obviously speaking about my front rest mainly. The front rest that I've got here is a Seb Mini. It's a very sturdy, very solid rest. It's got a joystick here at the bottom. I can come onto target very quickly, and it's got a very smooth action.
Definitely.
Now to go with a good front rest, you're going to need a good rear bag as well to go with it. I'm shooting this ProTech rear bag here. I've got it filled with very heavy medium inside here. You want to make sure that this bag sits super steady on the bench. If this bag is going to move around, you will have instabilities and you will see it downrange on your target. So make sure that this bag is super steady and as heavy as possible.
No, definitely. You don't want to have a great front rest like the Seb Mini and not have a steady rear bag.
You need to balance both of them out. If you have a solid front and a solid back, the gun will do the rest for you. The ammo that I'm using in my current gun setup is between 3 brands. I'm running the Lapua Center X, also like the Ely 10X, and I'm also shooting RWS through this gun as well. All 3 of them shoot very well, but when I have certain days, like when the one day is a little bit hotter than the next, or the one day is a little bit windier than the next, I do see some changes between that ammo. Certain of these rimfire ammos work a little bit better in certain conditions. That's something that you guys have to go out there and experiment yourself, but I've collected those data and I've got it with me, and that's something that I play around with depending on what the weather is that day. Well, unfortunately that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you guys next time again. If you like today's video, please go smash that like button down below, and if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please remember to subscribe. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers. All right. Okay.